Welcome everyone to Best Travel Stories. Thank you very much for being here today. You are going to enjoy the time we spend together. Let me ask you some questions before we start. How many of you would love to have fun? Yes, that's right. Let's enjoy the time together. Today we are going to have fun and hear about Hungary and Romania. We have a special guest. I will share my screen so that you can see what you can expect today. So, Diana is going to speak about Romania and Hungary. After that, we will have opportunity to introduce ourselves and tell about why we joined this group and give each other some tips. After that, we are going to our next part of this meeting, where we will choose one path or one feature stories to share. At the end, we will finish with one sentence feedback. So Diana, thank you for taking time and preparing the presentation for Hungary and Romania. Could you shortly introduce yourself and tell us about you? And you can also share the screen and the presentation.
Yep. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well. So, my name is Diana. I originally come from Romania. And I currently live in Germany. So, I'm living there and working there in Berlin. But right now, at this very moment, I'm in Tenerife, Spain. So I will talk about Romania and Hungary because my ethnicity is Hungarian. So my parents are Hungarian, my family is Hungarian. But I was born and raised in Romania, and I lived 26 years in Romania. Then I moved to Hungary. I lived in Budapest shortly for 1 year and a half. And afterwards, I moved to Berlin, and that's where I've been living ever since. So I am just going to share my screen. But before I do that, I wanted to ask you if you ever visited either one of these two countries. So either Romania or Hungary.
Anyone?
I,
Rush?
I've visited Budapest, but not Hungary yet.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, Budapest is pretty much a small island. Let's say it like that. But yeah.
I've also visited Budapest.
Oh, cool, cool. All right. I'm going to start with Romania because, well, that's where I was born, and then I'm gonna talk about Hungary. So, what I always say about the two countries, Romania is shaped like a fish, and Hungary is shaped like a bird. This is what we were taught when we were kids in school, and I do feel like it really much resembles a fish. Hungary, not so much a bird, but if you look at it enough, then you're gonna see it. So, what is known about Romania? Basically, whenever I tell someone that I'm from Romania, they always say like, "Oh, Transylvania, Dracula." That's always the response. Almost always. Some people know some of the cities there, some of the bigger cities. They know Bucharest, of course. Some people confuse Bucharest with Budapest. That annoys everyone basically that is from there because there's a kind of well, like a rivalry between the two countries. Why? Because historically speaking, this chunk of Romania, which is called Transylvania, you can see here, used to belong to Hungary, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then after the First World War, it was given to Romania. That's why there are so many Hungarians in here. That's why I'm Hungarian, for example, because my family, so for example, my grandma, she was born in Hungary, but then when she was 5, the territory that she was living in suddenly turned overnight from Hungary to Romania, and she didn't move an inch. So you can imagine that that's weird. But yes, basically this is the disputed territory over here on the west. I specifically am from here, from Cluj-Napoca. So this is where this is the area where I'm from. This is actually my hometown. It's called Câmpia Turzii. It's a very, very small town. I don't know why they chose this picture. This is actually horrible. But yeah, this is where I'm from. And then basically over here, a bit lower, you will have Dracula's castle. So it's called Bran Castle. And I myself saw it for the first time when I was 30, because I never got the chance to go there. And I decided, like, okay, well, if I'm from Romania and I'm going to tell so many people that I'm from Romania, I should visit the castle at least, because it was embarrassing all the time that they were asking me, did you see the castle? No, I did not. So it's actually smaller than I pictured it in my head. This picture is actually really, really beautiful. So this castle is the one where supposedly Dracula, or otherwise known as Vlad, that's his name actually, lived and was drinking other people's blood. They actually made it very beautiful in the sense that previously it used to belong to the state. Then the state sold it to someone, and that person made it super touristy. And if you walk in, you already, before you enter the castle, you will see a lot of different cool presentations about like bats and Dracula and this and that. And if you go inside, it's all about history. It's a lot of historical presentations inside. And then you can walk around these hallways over here and visit some of the things over there. Yeah, so that's the Bran Castle. That's basically the most famous thing that we have in Romania. But it's not the only thing, of course. So if I would like to describe my country, I would say that we are blessed to have mountains, because we have the Carpathian Mountains over here, wherever you see this dark green. Then we have the Danube flowing as well. Then we have the opening to the sea, to the Black Sea, which is really beautiful. And basically over here, all of the different areas that you can stay as a tourist, some of them are called after planets. So there's Venus station and Neptune station and so on. It's quite beautiful. I feel like it has become very, very touristy. I myself have not been there for a very, very long time, but it's really cool to go there. And I would say that if you're planning to ever go to Romania, I would definitely recommend one of the trips that I did myself, which was I flew to Bucharest. I stayed there for a couple of nights. I just wanted to see the city, and the old city especially, because Bucharest is pretty much let's say an old communist city. You will see a lot of like these buildings of blocks of apartments and so on. It's not that appealing if you go to the outskirts of the city. But inside of the city, you could see, for example, this Arch of Triumph, which is something that you see in Paris as well. And I heard there's one in America also. This is interesting to see. Then there's the biggest building, or one of the biggest government buildings in the world, that is present here in Bucharest. And it's called Casa Poporului, I believe. It was built by our previous ruler, I would say dictator, Ceausescu. and it's just a massive building. I don't know how many rooms it has, and it's, I think, on the second place in the world for the biggest, largest, whatever government building. I don't think they're even using all of it because it's just impossible, like unless you put every person that works in administration in there. It's just way too big. So this is one of the attractions, let's say. And then you have, it's actually quite beautiful inside, I would say. And then you have the old center in Bucharest, which I feel like is very, very nice. Here you have a lot of restaurants, you have a lot of cafes, and you can have a lot of great food, and typical Romanian food. And I believe that around here you will also find like museums and things like this that you can visit. Um, the Romanians are super religious. The main religion is Orthodox. So that's where you will basically see a lot of churches like this. This is an Orthodox church, for example. If you're curious to see the inside of one, then you will definitely find a lot of ones in Bucharest. So if you reach Bucharest, and if you saw this, I always made a mistake of saying Budapest. Yeah, myself. So if you do this in Bucharest for 2 or 3 days, you're good. Like basically, if you're not a big clubbing person and so on, then you're pretty much good. Then what you can do, you can take a train or a bus or a car, whatever you prefer. Trains are not really that nice in Romania, I must say. You can go to Brașov. Brașov is a town that has a lot of bears, for example, because it's surrounded by forests. It's very, very beautiful. I loved it when I was there. And the attraction in Brașov is that basically it has some sort of like a Hollywood sign on the hill where it says Brașov. I don't know if I can actually find it, but I will try to find a picture. Brașov sign. Yeah, there it is. So it's up the hill, up the mountain, and it's basically looks like the Hollywood sign, but of course it says Brașov. So that's a bit weird, but oh well, it is what it is. So yeah, and here basically what you have is a small old town. It's really beautiful. Again, you can walk around, you can have some really great food, you can shop. And then the great thing about Brașov is that it has the Bran Castle is very close to it. So basically, if I want to go from here, oh no, not my location, I want Brașov, and then basically Bran Castle. Then you can basically take a taxi, and it's like 30 minutes or something, super cheap also to get there, and you can visit the castle and then just go back to your hotel there. You can also stay at the Bran Castle, of course, like they're in front of the Bran Castle. There's a lot of accommodation places that you can choose. It's a small little village. Villagers also offer accommodation if you want to stay there, but I think that it's actually better to stay in Brașov if you want to visit this area. Yeah, so this is the main attraction that we have. Then if you would like to see old Transylvanian cities, then you can go to Cluj-Napoca. Cluj-Napoca is a university city. This is where I studied, for example. It's really beautiful. Not that big. I mean, I don't know exactly what kind of cities you're used to, but it's quite nice. I really like it. And this is one of the university cities. Then there's another one called Timișoara. Here I've never been, I must admit, but everyone says a lot of great things about it. It's another university city. You can see how religious people are, that even on Google Maps, it's like a lot of pictures about churches. Yes, and here you can also see a lot of nice buildings, nice architecture, and yeah, have fun here. Okay, so this would be basically the main attractions in Romania. Of course, if we're talking about the sea, then you can pretty much imagine what you can do there. You can beach, you can do a lot of things. Another thing that I want to mention, and I'm gonna just move to Hungary, is basically the delta, the Danube delta here, which is really, really nice. So if you're into nature, if you're into fish, if you're into fishing, boating, whatever, this is actually a really nice place to visit. The Danube Delta in Romania, because you can stay there, you can eat great food, you can go roam around with the boat and see a lot of beautiful natural things. I also have not been here. I've been a lot of times to the Black Sea, but it's I hear always very good things about this. Yeah, so these are the basically the highlights in Romania. As I said, like if you're into hiking, if you're into skiing, if you're into mountains, then you definitely will go to, for example, Brasov or like any other station here. For example, Sinaia, this one is like a really big one. This is where people come to ski. If you're more into swimming and you want to take a trip in the summer, then of course you can go to the Black Sea. If you're more into history, then I would definitely go and visit the Bran Castle. So yeah, you have a lot of choices depending on what you like to do. All right. So
Diana,
now, yes,
show us some examples of food for Romania.
yeah, of course. So I can show you that basically sarmale, this is the traditional Romanian food, but one of the traditional ones that is very popular. It's cabbage roll. So what you have inside is like meat mixed with rice, and with usually we put this in a cabbage roll, and then on top of it we spread tomato sauce, and then we put it in the oven. And then when it's ready, you put sour cream on it, and it's absolutely amazing. It's really great. And then we have, for example, meat. We call it meat or miti tay. This you probably have seen in, for example, Turkish places or other places. They are called cevapcici, but we call them mich. And we mix, for example, lamb meat with beef, with pork. It's a mixture of multiple types of meats. My father, for example, when he grills it, he puts it in beer first. I have no idea why, but it just tastes really great. So he puts it in beer, he leaves it there for a while, then takes it out and then grills it, and it's just like the best thing ever. And actually, because today is 1st of May and it's like it's International Workers Day, it's a big deal in Romania, because usually what we do is we go out and we barbecue. We go to the forest, we go wherever, and we barbecue, and we eat this with fries and mustard. And mustard is a must have. You just cannot eat this without mustard because it does not taste the same. Then we have mămăligă cu brânză, which is basically you can prepare it in many different ways. In my family, what we do is basically we have this cornbread, because this is cornbread. You put a layer of cornbread, then you put some cheese, then you put some another layer of cornbread, another layer of cheese, and you keep doing that up until you have a cake, kind of. And then on top you spread like a sour cream, and it's just amazing. It's just really so good. It's actually like vegetarian, there's no meat in it, but it tastes so wonderful, and because our cheeses are as well are super good. And then you can also put bacon on top of it if you want. You can make it as a hot dog, whatever, but it tastes really great. Another thing that I like is, for example, eggplant salad. This is the baba ganoush, the so-called baba ganoush. It's just that we put onion in it, we put mayonnaise in it. Some people put even garlic in it. It just depends on the house, on the region, and so on. But this thing with fresh bread and tomatoes is just amazing. It's just the best thing ever. Like, this is, I could eat this for my whole life, and I like, for from now on until I die, I could eat this every day and I would not get tired of it. It's really good. All right, so those are basically the main things that you can get in Romania. Of course, a lot of meat, a lot of meat. Every dish almost comes with meat. So yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Then let's move to Hungary. So Hungary basically does not have, like, geographically speaking, let's say, it's not that interesting as Romania, because Romania has so many different, like a Carpathian mountains and Danube and sea and so on. In Hungary, the poor guys, they don't really have mountains. The country is super flat. They have what they call the Hungarian Sea, which is not a sea, it's a lake. It's called Lake Balaton. Okay, so it's situated over here. I have been to this place last year. It's called Siófok. It's really great. So you can just basically imagine like a typical well, sea station, let's say, that you just, there's a lot of hotels, there's a lot of eating places, there's a lot of places where you can shop and so on, and then just enjoy the lake. I must say that going inside of the lake and taking a bath, it's not so cool because the lake is not that deep. You have to really walk a lot inside of the water up until it reaches your neck, so then you can feel like, okay, I'm actually swimming or whatever. But it's some of the places, like for example the Shiofok one, is really known for its like crazy parties and like boat parties where it goes up until in the morning, people like having a lot of fun on boats and just going up and down the lake and making a lot of noise and so on. So I would say it's a really great place. Okay, not now because it's the pandemic, of course, but usually it's a really great place. I think the more touristy ones are here in the south. The north is more local, and there is this place called Tihany, which is very famous for its wines. So Hungary, it's, if you think about Hungary, I don't know what comes first in your mind, but I just think about a lot of wine, for example, a lot of different famous wines. I think about Budapest, of course, and I think about, for example, the Rubik Cube. The Rubik Cube was invented by a Hungarian guy. And yeah, I just have this image in my head about Balaton as well. So yeah, uh, but I would really like to talk more about Budapest, because Budapest is something that I love. It's one of the cities that I love the most in the world. I've been to many places in the world, but like Budapest is just like, it doesn't compare to anything else, or nothing compares to it actually. So Budapest is composed by two parts. So on one side we have Pest, which is this Pest. We call it Pest, and this is Buda. So I don't know how many hundreds of years ago it used to be like two different things. Then they united it, and then they said, okay, let's just call it Budapest. So if it basically separated by the Danube, as you can see, there's a lot of different bridges. One of the most famous bridges is the train bridge, of course. You've probably seen this all over. Basically, every time you buy a postcard in Budapest, is going to contain this bridge somehow. It's just impossible to miss it. I myself have lived in somewhere here in Pest in the 8th district over here. The let's say that Pest area is the party area and where all the action happens. And then on the Bura side, you have a lot of offices, you have a lot of residential areas, you have a lot of more quieter places where there's not so much going on in terms of parties and tourists and students and so on and so forth. Like it's a more quiet area. The Pest side is definitely where all the action happens. So, what is worth visiting here aside from the chain bridge, of course? I always recommend, and even when I was living there, when someone came to visit me, I always had like some sort of itinerary where I started everything. So, basically, that thing is the St. Stephen Basilica. This is like one of a big church that is in the middle of the Pest area. It's very beautiful inside and out. It's super touristy, of course, because a lot of people come and visit it. It's the tallest building in Budapest. They have this law that they're not allowed to build skyscrapers and stuff like this. So it's this is the only one that is tall. And once you are done with this, taking pictures, going inside, and so on, then what I do is I usually walk from here, from the St. Stephen Basilica, St. Istvan we call it. You go to the chain bridge, and then you cross the chain bridge. You take some pictures. You will see the Parliament from the bridge, and then once you cross the bridge, you will be super close to Buda Castle. So this is another very, very beautiful castle that is on the Buda side. I have never been inside because every time I went to see the museum, it was closed for some reason, and I never been inside. But I'm pretty sure that the side is beautiful as well. You have to go up the hill. That's the only thing. There's also like a cable car somewhere here that you can take to go up if you don't want to walk, and then you can just go inside. Yeah, this is a quite cool place, and then you have this view from there from the Parliament. So once you explore this, then basically you can just go a bit further and you can get to Fisherman's Bastion. This is another cool place. I'm not sure exactly why they call it the Fisherman's Bastion, but it looks like a Disney castle of some sort. It's really beautiful. And of course, you have a lovely view of the Parliament right in front of you. Another cool thing that you will see here is this church that is called Matyas Church. And this one has a really interesting roof and a really interesting interior. Um, there's no shortage of churches in Hungary as well. So I think they're not as religious as Romanians, but definitely have a lot of churches. So this is how it looks during the night. Yeah. And conscious of the time, I'm just gonna basically recap. So you start with St. Stephen's Basilica, you go to the chain bridge, you go to the Buda Castle. Once you've done that, you go to the Fisherman's Bastion. This is already half a day, if not more, depending, because if you go inside the Buda Castle and you want to take a lot of pictures over here, then it's going to take you a lot of time, of course. Then what you can do is usually you go down this hill, because when you're here, you're on a hill. You go down and then just go over here to Margit, cross over to Pest again, and then just come here to the Parliament. So you can take some pictures of the Parliament as well. And this one, I would definitely recommend to go inside because it's really interesting inside how it looks like. It's so beautifully decorated, as you can see. It's gorgeous. And then you can have like guided tours as well, but make sure to purchase your ticket as soon as possible, because usually there's a lot of tourists, and then if you don't have a ticket, then you don't really have a chance to go in that day if you don't have it purchased beforehand. Yeah, so once you've done that, then you pretty much covered most of the things that are super like a must see. Then you can go to Hero Square. In Hero Square, you can take also like a stroll, a walk. You can take some pictures. It's like a typical, you know, structure with different statues and so on. But what's interesting about here is that behind this thing, there's this huge, huge park. And here, what you have is a castle, you have a zoo, and then also you have like this wonderful, wonderful area where you can go and to the pool and take a bath. And this is actually thermal baths that you have here. So this is also, I would say, a must see, because you have like so many things over here that you can explore during the during the winter. This water body over here, this lake, it turns into an ice skate ring. So that's also really, really cool, depending on where you go. So I would just like click on this because I would like to show you how cool this bath is. I myself, when I was living there, I did not go because I always thought that, oh, I have so much time, like I don't need to go there. And then I just moved to Germany and I never got the chance. But last year I went by myself because nobody wanted to come with me. And I was like, okay, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go and see what it is about. And I spent the whole day there. And they even have a pool that has beer in it. So you can bathe in beer for some reason. Don't ask me why. I don't know if it has some sort of healing properties, but this is how it looks like, and it's really, really nice. This is the castle that I was talking about that is right there in that big park. This is an exact replica of another, or not exactly an exact replica, let's say a very, very close replica of a castle that is in Romania and that we have in Romania. That is also called Hunyad Castle. And yeah, so this is definitely a must see. And then, of course, whenever you're walking around in Budapest, you're always going to find some really, really nice places to eat, to drink. I love this cafe, which is not exactly a cafe, but I mean, it's a cafe, of course, but it's like so beautiful that you forget that you're in a cafe. You feel like you're in an opera house or something. It's called New York Cafe. And as you can see, it's beautiful. I went here once with my mom and we had coffee and they were playing the cello next to us. So it was really like, it's really an unforgettable experience. Um, and yeah, of course the coffee is also delicious. I don't know if it's delicious because it's good or it's just delicious because you're there and you just forget about the coffee taste completely. One last thing I will mention, and then I will move to the food, which is there is this place that is called Simpla. There is a culture of ruin bars in Budapest as well. I don't know where it started. It's definitely a big deal in Berlin as well. There's a bunch of buildings that need to be renovated. The government doesn't want to do it, so they just rent it out, and then people just turn them into a bar, into a club, into whatever they can. And they are super, 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 super popular. So this Simplokert is basically a very, very touristy place, but it's a must see because it's a ruin bar or ruin pub. They everything that they found on the street, on the, you know, like different markets, everything that you can imagine, like old bikes, whatever, you can see here. They are either like hanging from the ceiling. They have an old Trabant that it is there inside of the bar that you can sit on and you can have your drink in it. At a certain point, there was a lady that was selling carrots to the tourists whenever they came there. So that was also like really weird. Like, why would you be selling carrots? Like, people are having beer and having drinks, and they were selling vegetables. So it's yeah, it's a weird place, but it's also like worth seeing. And there's of course a lot of places like this in Budapest. Right. So if I want to talk about food, I would definitely mention my favorite sweet, which is dobos torta. You've probably seen this before, this thing. So this is delicious. Of course, depends on where you go and where you buy it. It has like so many layers and also like a lot of chocolate inside, like chocolate cream. My mother, of course, makes the best one in the world. But every time I go somewhere and I see it, I'm gonna choose it, even though I know that it's not gonna be that good, because it's just like I'm in love with this. Then we have the famous goulash, right? The goulash, I think everyone knows it. It's basically, you can make it with beef, you can make it with sausages. I usually make it with sausages because it's easier for me. I'm not really a big fan of beef. Um, you can make it with pork meat, whatever you have handy. It has a lot of potatoes inside, a lot of veggies, and yeah, it looks like this. It's really, really good. But keep in mind that wherever you go, wherever you do, it's gonna taste different in every place that you eat goulash. If you go to Romania, the Romanian goulash is gonna be completely different from the Hungarian one. It just really, really depends on the region and how much condiments they put in it, of course. Yeah, and they also have the sarmale that I showed you for Romania. So this is also one of their things that they do, definitely. Um, what else is there? Let me think. Do you have any questions in the meantime?
Anyone? Questions?
Okay. So, oh yes, let's not forget about the langosh. This is something that is kind of like a pie, sort of, or like a donut. It has the consistency of a donut. It's street food, pretty much street food. Even in other countries, sometimes you will find it on the street in like a small little, truck they're selling it from. I saw it in Berlin once. They put sour cream on it, and then on top of that, they put cheese. It's really, really good. You can put also jam on it. You can put Nutella, whatever you want basically, but it's so good. Although I must say it's heavy because it's basically made in a lot of oil, right? But I mean, once every full moon, I would definitely eat this very, very often because it's really delicious. Yes, and that pretty much completes my presentation. um when it comes to Hungary, of course, I would definitely recommend Budapest first. First and foremost, Budapest, because that's probably where you're gonna land. And then, if you have the chance, if it's summer, then go to Balaton. If you're interested in it's seeing like nice architecture or so, you can go, for example, to Veszprém. Veszprém has a really nice basilica that they're famous for. And you can also go to like other bigger cities that are closer to Romania, like for example Debrecen. Debrecen is quite famous, and Szeged also. But you're not gonna have a lot of things to do there, I must say. So if you want to have fun, Budapest and Balaton. So yeah, that's the conclusion.
Oh, thank you, Diana. I really enjoyed the presentation and the way you are presenting it and the outfit today. Great. Thank you. Anyone having a question or something to ask?
No, not a question, but yeah, it was really nice. And one more thing which I enjoyed a lot in Budapest was the cruise or the boat tour at night in the Danube.
Mhm.
Yeah, because yeah, it's very well lit. Like all the monuments are near the river, so when it's at night, it looks very beautiful.
B, do you want to ask something?
I haven't really got any questions, but one thing I will say is I had a completely different experience when I went to Budapest. I know you said you've been to lots of cities and towns. I have as well, but with Budapest, I felt like everybody was, I don't know how to phrase it, but I was constantly being hassled and felt like I was being, people wanted to scam me. Like the gentleman wanted me to go into the lap dancing places and he didn't want to go into it. And then I was forever getting two females would come and talk to me and they said, have you got a map? And I say, yes, I've got a map. And then they'll want you to go with them to a bar or a drink or whatever. But I didn't feel comfortable. And then when I asked a taxi driver, he told me the story of like, basically they take you somewhere and they have a deal with the management or whatever, and they run off at the end of the evening, and then you're left with a huge bill. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't fall for it, but it really kind of ruined my stay there. But it's absolutely beautiful. I remember the bridge. I remember climbing up the side of the mountain to go to the castle. That was amazing because I went halfway up and it started raining really badly. But it looked amazing. Like I took loads of photographs and, you know, it was downpouring, you know, like really heavily. I also went to the baths, although I didn't actually go inside. But I mean, I think I will try and go again another time, but it's a shame that, you know, when you're constantly being hassled, it ruins your holiday, you know, and you start distrusting people if you ask for advice or whatever. You know, I tried to get from one place to the other, and then I was using a rickshaw driver, but what he was charging me afterwards, I found out, was like 2 or 3 times. You know, it's a real shame, and I don't think it's a fair reflection. It's just, that was just my experience of Budapest, unfortunately.
I'm sorry you had that experience. When was this? When did you go there?
Good question. I was trying to remember how far back it was, but it was probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I don't know if things have changed or what, but yeah, it was.
Well, you know, of course, I probably have a different experience because not that just because I live there, but also because I speak the language and I have this citizenship. So of course, like it's easier for someone to navigate it like that, right? But yeah, as in every kind of Eastern European country, there are people who are gonna try to scam you. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, no, I understand this, and like I said, I've been to lots of different cities, but it was.
I will say that we forgive and leave it in the past, and
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, no. I mean,
open and bright and better.
No. I'm really good with.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
No problems.
I love this honesty, and to be open is very good.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's move to our second part of our meeting. It is about introducing yourself, telling why you joined this group. Diana, you already did it. You can skip if you want to. I will start with myself. I'm so happy that I started with this community. The reason is because I love people, I love nature. And in this time, I thought it would be good that we come in one place where we can share our past experience and also together to dream for the future, to share our bucket lists. I'm very happy that we are also involved in this and doing together and taking time. Thank you for that. Let's move to Rashmi.
Hello, I've been joining this from a few weeks now, whenever I can. And it's been really good for me in the sense that I feel very inspired by listening to the experiences of everyone. Yeah, that's the reason I attend this.
Thank you, Rashmi. B?
Yeah, so I joined because I like traveling. And I like getting ideas for trips, because one of my goals is to visit initially to visit every single European country. And Hungary has been on my list for a long time. So I just saw that and I thought, I need to listen to this, because I did actually did meet a Hungarian friend when I was living in Manchester, and she mentioned a couple of other places, Sibiu and Sigigora. I probably pronounced them wrong, but she also mentioned the one that you mentioned, the Bravos, is it, whatever. So yeah, it looks like a really interesting place. The only problem I would have is I don't eat meat or dairy or anything like that, so it's always a problem when I travel. I have to find the places that are suitable for me in terms of food. I'm not a meat eater, so.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Thank you, B. Now we are moving to our last part, and this is to share one feature or past destination. Also, as usual, I will start to show you how it could be. This time I want to share one past destination, and it is traveling to my country as a tourist. I didn't mention that I am originally from Bulgaria, and I book separately the hotel and the flight, and I spent 1 week in Bulgaria, in Albania, because my son is not speaking Bulgarian, and the whole time we were speaking in German. Then they did not recognize that we are Bulgarian, and for me was a very strange feeling. I did it. I also invited my parents. I booked it for all of us, and we met in separate places. It was very good for me, the feeling to be in your own country as a tourist. They had in the hotel animation for different kind of extras for tourists in different languages, and all the time they spoke in German with us. It was one of the strange past destination that I spent. It was very good. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to share this experience because it's different of my. B, do you want to share one pass or one of your future destination you want to travel?
Yeah. Oh goodness. I'm trying to think. But just I could talk to you about what you said about having looking at your own town as a tourist. I do that sometimes because I work away from home, and I'm from York in England, if people are not aware, and it's very touristy. But when I go back, I always try and pretend I'm a tourist in my head, you know, because you have a different viewpoint. You start looking at architecture and you start looking at stuff in a different kind of way. And because I've spent some time away and I come back, I actually really, really appreciate it, because when I live there, I just think, oh, I need to get out of York. I've been here too long, you know. But that's a really interesting exercise, actually. And I actually recommend it to everybody. I sort of say, just doesn't matter where you are, just pretend you're a tourist, because somehow in your head, something happens, your brain changes, or you feel different, that you kind of.
But you need to speak different than English.
Sorry?
But you need to speak different than English because you are from UK.
That's true.
Understand.
Yeah. But in the UK, most people that come visit York certainly speak English and stuff. But yeah, I wish I could speak another language. Unfortunately, I can't. So.
It's never too late to start.
Yeah, I want to learn German, but it's so hard.
Okay.
I can't get past the fruits and the vegetables, and even now I've lost.
Thank you for sharing and being honest. Diana, do you want to share one future probably destination you would love to go? Probably she's not there. We are moving to Rashmi.
I'm you.
Diana, are you there? I thought you. Okay.
I was muted and I was talking to myself. Basically.
Okay, it's okay. All is well. If you want, you can share one future travel destination you want to visit, where you would love to go, for example, or do you have any idea?
Well, I would like to talk about my current destination, which is Tenerife, Spain.
Oh,
It's well, the thing is that I have a friend who lives here, and she always told me like, you have to come here, you have to come here, and I was always like more interested in going outside of Europe because I wanted to explore, more countries in Asia or Latin America or so on. But now because of the pandemic, and then I saw that there's no quarantine required, I was like, well, this is really great. Now it's like the perfect opportunity to go. So what I did is like I came in January. I came for like 12 or 13 days. I took holiday from work, and it was her birthday, then it was my birthday, so it was basically perfect because I was like in a warm place on my birthday, which I never was in because my birthday is in February. It's always cold everywhere I am. And then I went back to Germany, and then I thought like, you know what, I'm just gonna go back to Tenerife. Screw this. Like honestly, this is so bad. Yeah, it's cold, it's depressing. I do home office. I work a lot because I work around like 9 or 10 hours sometimes, and it's just super stressful. I just needed something to, make it a bit better. So I came back here for 6 weeks. I rented an apartment. I was so lucky because my friend gave me a contact who then found an apartment which has ocean front, which is unfreaking believable. And I stayed here for 6 weeks. First 3 weeks I was with a friend, then he went back to Germany. Then I stayed 2 weeks by myself, and then another friend came and visited me from Switzerland for 1 week. So that was great because then I was like half the time by myself, half the time with someone, and I didn't feel that I'm missing out on something. And I just feel like this place is just so great because it has awesome temperature at this point in the year. In the summer, of course, like you're gonna die from the heat because it's just way too hot. But it's different from the Balearic islands because here the temperature in, for example, February, March, April, so on, is like really you can go to the beach. It's that good. There's no winter, there's no real winter here because we're right next to Africa, so it's like in the same line of Morocco basically. And it's just like a different vibe here. You just don't really feel that you're in a pandemic. There's not many tourists. Everything is like super clean. You can go to restaurants, you can go to bars, you can go shopping, you can go to the beach. Of course, you have to wear a mask everywhere. You have to take care to disinfect your hands and so on. And they require always like a COVID test when you come, when you go. But I think it's definitely worth it because for those of us who've been stuck inside of the house, actually those of us, most of us, we have been stuck inside of the house for a year. I just felt like I'm just gonna go nuts if I stay in Berlin, and I don't know what's gonna happen now, but I hope that it's just gonna get a bit more open so that everyone can enjoy the nature a bit more in the summer.
great experience. Do you want to stay more there, or
I would love to, of course, but I'm going back home tomorrow.
okay? Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Rashmi?
Yeah, for me, one of the nicest experience was going to Finland. It was just before this whole pandemic started in January of 2020. Yeah, and it was really nice. We went there to see the Northern Lights, and along with it, there was a lot of other adventures like seeing the husky or the Santa Claus village and so on. It was a very nice experience.
Thank you. Now we are at the end of our meeting. It is one sentence feedback. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for taking time doing this presentation. Soon we will have our great meeting with the hours. I'm so excited about it. What else I wanted to say? Yes, next week we have Kenya, and it will be a great presenter, a new friend of mine. I'm so happy to announce that. see you at the same time on Saturday. Rashmi, do you want to say one last sentence feedback or something to?
It was great, like usual. Yeah, it's always great. So yeah, thank you, Diana, for the great presentation.
B? I cannot hear you. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you as well to Diana. I think it was a really good presentation, and it's always nice to sort of see something from somebody else's viewpoint, especially if they've lived there and stuff. So that was really great. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your attention and your attendance. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
Okay. Diana, do you want to add something?
Did you hear me just now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, well, what I would like to add, that this COVID ends soon and we will all get back to normal. That's what I would like to add. That's my hope. And then we can all go and travel somewhere.
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. Thank you once again for your great presentation and your attitude. I really loved it. For all, see you next week at the same time. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
Ciao. Have a good weekend. Ciao.